Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Call on Yamla, Adonava Yahweh, Bashem Shamalak Yahushai, Bashem Rakadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of millstone, peace, says teachers, and so for elect. Habba Yashar Malak Dabadah, House of King David, and the confusion of faces that look like these heathen nation, but identity goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the royal holy Joseph, Selah, and Shalom. And this hardest video is going to be, may title it along these lines, or something to this effect. Single mother or fatherless homes destroys our communities or destroys our people, somewhere along those lines. So now I have an article right here that says effects of fatherless families on crime rates. So it says the root of crime today, nearly 25 million children have an absentee father. According to professional literature, the absence of the father is the single most important cause of poverty. Yeah, because usually the fathers, they work and they, usually you see a lot of men that owns businesses and stuff, and they know how to deal with finances more than women, and that's just how a man is, honestly. And pretty much a man is like, he's more, what you call it, he has like more logic than a woman on average, and that's just how it is, because even the Bible says so. And it says right here, the same is true for crime. Of all adolescents, those in intact married families are the least likely to commit delinquent acts. Exactly, because usually when there's marriage and the families don't separate, if they don't divorce, like the mother and the father, then the children will mostly be in order, But even to a certain extent, you do have like simps within our people because of this whole feminism shit. So like, even if they're married, they have to do whatever it takes to make the mother happy, because guess what, if you don't make the mother happy, she'll do some evil shit. She'll try to put your kids against you as pawns in the game and destroy the relationship between your father and then the sons and his sons. They will do shit like that. Yeah. And this is usually the curses that affect the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Latinos and Native Americans. And mainly it hits the Southern Kingdom the hardest, because you will see it in the films and they show it too. So it's like Esau, he shows these films and he pushes it upon our people, but it happens to his people too, because the curses, hey man, you attack the Israelite man, it's gonna happen to your own people too. So that's how the Most High is, because he looks out for his people. And Esau, he's going through these curses too, but it's mostly us, and we don't give a fuck about Esau because this is his kingdom, and he clearly showed he don't really give a fuck about us. And the elect knows that, but 2/3 they don't really know that, and they gotta learn that when it's too late. So it says the same is true for Slakia. Children of single-parent homes are more likely to be abused, have emotional problems, engage in questionable behavior, struggle academically, and become delinquent. Problems with children from fatherless families continue into adulthood. These children are 3 times more likely to end up in jail by the time they reach age 30, and are children raised in intact families and have the highest rates of incarceration in the United States, according to Kevin and Karen Wright. Wow. So you see, and Jake make up most of that number because, like I said, the curses hit us the hardest, because Esau pushes that vibration of basically that black culture shit, and saying that how in the black movies or whatever, so-called black movies, where you see the Southern Kingdom, like, of our nation, of our people, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, they'll be in like films and movies showing that Pookie Ray Ray lifestyle, and they make it look like it's a funny thing, and that's honestly an Edomite lifestyle, to live with woman and to pop woman and leave that woman with a kid. That's what Edomites do, but they push it upon our people, and they acting like they're the ones that do the righteous things, and because our people in the ancient world, we didn't really originally do shit like this. Like, you know. But under Esau's rulership, we're doing all the some of our people are doing these things because we're under an evil ruler called Esau. And it says right here, children living in female-headed families with no spouse present have a poverty rate of 45.8%, over 4 times the rate children in married couples families 9.5%. This modern form of family disintegration, or more accurately non-formation, has its consequences for criminal behavior. The growth in crime is paralleled by the growth in families abandoned by fathers. And honestly, the only way the father could ever get those kids, honestly, is that he has to have some proof that the mother is abusing those kids or doing some crazy shit that the courts will deem as, okay, they have to just give the father the kids. But most of the time, they give the mother the kids. And sometimes, even though the kids get abused, it's like, I guess they don't have enough evidence sometimes to show that they're getting, really heavily abused. Because it depends on what the mother is doing and stuff like that sometimes. Because sometimes, like, yeah, women are not really raised to pretty much raise the children by themselves. They're not taught to do that. It's not in their spirit to do that. And they fail on that sometimes. It's really hard for them. That's why it's good to have the man in the picture. Because a man could do it by himself. I'm telling you, a man could really raise children by himself. He could do it. A man is strong enough to do that. A man could learn how to cook, could learn how to clean for himself, could learn how to do what a woman could do, like in sewing and stuff like that. He could do it for himself. We could adjust the things, but women can't really make those adjustments like that. And even if they try to, they can't go as far as a man. That's just how it is. And abandoned mothers, it says, what you call it? In normal families, a father gives support to his wife, particularly during the period surrounding birth and in early childhood years, when children make heavy demands on her. In popular parlance, he is her burnout prevention, but a single mother does not have this support, and the added emotional and physical stress may result in fatigue and less parent availability to the child, increasing the risk of a relationship with a child that is emotionally more distant. A single mother generally is less able to attend to all of her child's needs as quickly or as fully as she could if she were well taken care of by a husband. These factors tend to affect the mother's emotional attachment to her child and in turn reduce the child's lifelong capacity for emotional attachment to others and empathy for others. Such empathy helps restrain a person from acting against others' well-being. Violent criminals obviously lack this. At the extreme, and a more common situation in the cities, a distant relationship between a mother and a child can become an abusing and neglectful relationship. Abandoned mothers, whether intentionally or unintentionally, sometimes end up abandoning their own children physically or emotionally. This causes the child to think the mother's abandonment of them is their own fault. Exactly. And that's how women are. They're too emotional, so they need a man to pretty much have that emotional attachment to their children. Because women themselves, they're like overgrown children. Honestly, women, you know, it could whether be from the southern kingdom of our people or the northern kingdom of our people, which is comprised of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans. Could be a Edomite or heathen. It don't matter. Women in general, they're just like overgrown kids. Women have they have a childlike mindset. That's why a man is the head of the woman. So basically, when you have a fatherless home or a single mother home, you're basically having a woman with no head, literally, like, or spiritually, because we're the head of a woman. Yahweh Shai is the head of us, and Yahweh B'Hashem Yahshai is the head over Yahweh Shai. So Yahweh B'Hashem Yahshai is the head over, he's the highest head, and honestly, a head is where your brain is located in your side your head, right? And your mind is what's inside your brain, your spirit and stuff like that. Yeah. So basically, these women, they don't have that type of leadership, because they're not born with it. Like, they need a man to pretty much lead them and guide them, and it makes sense. So This is about abandoned sons. A father's attention to his son has enormous positive effects on a boy's emotional and social development. Exactly. Here's the kicker. But a boy abandoned by his father is deprived of a deep sense of personal security. According to Rolf Lober, professor of psychiatry, psychology, and epidemiology at the Western Psychiatric Institute in the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, a close and intense relationship between a boy and his father prevents hostility and inappropriate aggressiveness. Exactly. So, in other words, it will prevent niggas acting stupid in the street. It will prevent niggas from being gangbangers, acting like fucking sodomite faggots, um, in the LGBTQ or alphabet people or whatever the fuck you call them. And even these niggas sagging their pants out in the street, shooting guns sideways and spraying bullets every fucking where, trying to make everybody catch them bullet holes and shit like that in their V's, or bullet holes in their houses, or bullet holes in their actual, you know on them, pretty much like on them as well, because they be shooting random people, you know and if it was more father homes, like, at least with single fathers, these crime rates will decrease. Then it says this inappropriate aggressiveness is an early indication of potential delinquency later on, particularly in boys. Furthermore, such bad behavior is a barrier to child's finding a place among his normal peers, and aggressive usually is the precursor of a hostile and violent street attitude. And Elijah Anderson observes that these young men, very sensitive in their demands for respect, display a demeanor, which is an attitude which communicates deterrent aggression, not unlike behavior that causes normal peers to reject and isolate aggressive boys in grade school. The message of this body language, of course, triggers rejection by the normal adult community. Yeah. And because of their misbehavior, that's why they get locked up a lot. They go to jail. They end up going to the penitentiary, And Esau set that shit up. And absence of father's authority and discipline. The dominant role of fathers in preventing delinquency is well established. Over 50 years ago, this phenomenon was highlighted in the classic studies of causes of delinquency by Sheldon and Eleanor Glick of Harvard University. They describe in academic terms what many children hear their mothers so often say: wait till your father gets home. In a well-functioning family, the very presence of the father embodies authority, and authority conveyed through his daily involvement in family life. This paternal authority is critical to the prevention of psychopathology and delinquency. The benefits a child receives from his relationship with his father are notably different from those derived from his relationship with his mother. The father contributes a sense of paternal authority and discipline, which is conveyed through involved presence. The additional benefits of his affection and attachment add to this primary benefit. So yeah, and Albert Bandura, as early as 1959, that delinquents suffer from an absence of father's affection. Exactly. And that's pretty much what I want to get in on that. So I just went through it all on this article, and I'll get out the next one and skim through it. And yeah, when you have a father in your house, that pretty much displays like dominance, But for the most part, Esau weakens the men because he emasculates the man, which is like depriving the man of his masculinity, and he masculates the woman, making the woman stronger with the feminism. That's what it is. He basically cuts off the penis of the man spiritually and attach it to the woman spiritually. They even have sex reassignment surgery, which is so disgusting for those procedures as well. So they even trying to physically do it. You see this madness, like like when I mentioned like spiritually, but then you actually have like sex reassignment surgery from male to female and even female to male, and then they take hormones and all this other shit. So yeah, and that's another thing too. When single father homes will also cause a child to become like the mother in a way. He want to be like a female, because he wants to feel like he hates men, because he could imagine how bad women are being mistreated by men, because of this feminism shit, when in fact a lot of men are being mistreated by women. There's studies that show that, that women are the ones that are the they say the verdicts, they're the perpetrators, they're the ones that caused most of the domestic violence, and those cases get underreported, you know, because men feel ashamed, or sometimes they don't really file it. So it's very underlooked, like, a man being abused by a woman. But let a man abuse a woman, there's gonna get so much backlash against the community. People will be good Samaritans and save that woman's life if a man fights back, or even if a man fights back and hits that woman back. So yeah. So here it is. It says the proof is in father absence harms children. There's a father absence crisis in America. According to the U.S. Census, 18.3 million, 1 in 4, live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. Consequently, there is a father factor in nearly all social ills facing America today. And yes, even Esau fits in those curses as well, because the Most High is cursing him for trying to push this upon our people, but most of our people are affected by it, and it tells you that that's the curse in Deuteronomy 28, and it says the father absent crisis in America. I already read that part. 4 times greater risk of poverty, 7 times more likely to become a pregnant as a teen. Yeah, that's the females, having a kid before they get their career or whatever. And even in college, they getting popped by every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry, Pookie, and Ray Ray, going to parties and sleeping over at the parties, getting drunk, getting, drugged up and shit. And then behavioral problems, more likely to have behavioral problems. Yeah, especially the females too, because they're being whores is giving them all these other men's spirits that going in them, is basically having them to feel having their stupid ass mood swings and PTSD reactions. And child abuse, it says, more likely to face abuse and neglect. Mom to child health, 2 times greater risk of infant mortality. Wow. Substance abuse, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. Yep. And incarceration, more likely to go to prison. That's the obvious one for Jake. A lot of it is kind of a little obvious for Jake. And child obesity, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity. Yeah, that's true. And crime, more likely to commit crime. Yeah, 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. And he said just the facts involved dads improve their child's overall emotional and social well-being. Just the facts, children with involved dads are less likely to be mistreated. Children who live with their dads do better in school. Adolescent teen boys who live with their dads are less likely to carry guns and deal drugs. Involved dads reduce mom's parenting stress. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 19.5 million children, more than 1 in 4. Oh, I read that already. Children with imprisoned fathers are more likely to have depression. Exactly. That's true, because especially if their father been in their life and they just go to prison, or they died, that makes them oppressed, depressed. And it says children living without their father in the home are 47% more likely to live in poverty. Men with absent fathers are more likely to become absent fathers themselves. That's true. Yeah, because they feel like they came from a father that, popped the woman, that popped their moms, and then left them in that, house or apartment. Yeah, shit like that happens. And the kids end up doing the same fucking thing, the same fuckery. Women with absent fathers are more likely to have children with absent fathers. Yeah, that's true. And then then what they say about the good guy, nice guys finish last, right? To fucking clean up your dirty ass mess that you caused to your own self in the first place. You see this shit? Because the thing is that Esau, he shows it in the films like it's okay, and then like, oh, I'm going through this, so this is probably something I'm bound to go through anyway. So it's like they're already just destroyed mentally. It's no wonder why the Most High said, "For my people destroyed for lack of knowledge." Some of these women have a chance to like, you know, to get with the guys that's actually gonna take care of their kids, but they feel like that guy is just a friend for them. Stupid. Boys have fewer behavioral problems, and girls have fewer psychological problems when they have involved dads. Infant death within the first 28 days of life is 4 times higher for those with absent fathers than those with involved fathers. Mortality rate. Wow. All right. I think I sit on that. I'll just get out some scriptures now. So now this is Job chapter 14, verse 1, and I'm going to go down to verse 5. It says, "Man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not." Exactly. So he's destroyed. He's cut down from his like a flower, like you cut off a flower from the ground. He's dead. That flower is dead. You chop the tree off the you cut it off. You cut the tree, and it's cut in half now. It's not connected to the roots no more. It's pretty much dead. It's not grounded in its roots. When you cut a plant from its when you cut half of its body, it's dead. You can't reattach it and shit like that. And that's how it is when you destroy the people in our community. And to be honest, my father, he left me when my younger brother was pretty much being born. When he was born, my father left, and I saw him do it and everything. Man wore a yellow jacket, got his brown suitcase. He was out that house, and my mom was waiting for him, and shit. I was like, wow, surprised. And my half brother, the other he was like saying, my half brother on my mom's side was saying like, he's packing up, he's leaving, like my dad, and my mom's surprised because she just had my little brother, and he was in 2005, and he was a newborn. It's crazy. She was waiting for him all that time in the hospital. How the fuck you pop my mom's and you have like fucking 3 kids for her, all boys, and you fucking had a kid for another woman, which will be my brother, because he comes from my father, and you don't care. But at least he was kind of there. Like, he still gave food, he still kind of like did stuff, but it's like he didn't, and he took us out some places or whatever, some fun places sometimes, but he didn't really do it consistently as a father. He wasn't really there for my sports team like that. He didn't really support it as much and support me playing sports as much, and I felt like I could have made it somewhere in life playing sports. But it's alright, it's all through the will of Heavenly Father anyway. I got this truth anyway, so he's kind of mad that I got the truth. And I'm like, how the fuck you getting mad that I got the truth, telling me not to be a part of this thing? I had to curse him out for that and rebuke him for that. And then he left me, say there's nothing else he could tell me. He can't tell me what to do. I'm like, you motherfucker, you can't, because you barely been in my life to even, help me out and, to even like make me the man that I am today. Who made me the man that I am today? Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Me being through bullshit, through people, I had to be the man myself and had to fight for myself, physically and spiritually. Yeah, and emotionally. Because I was tough, not to break down like a bitch, for all the shit that I went through. There were some times I cried when I was young, but by myself, but, And it says, verse 3, "And dost thou open thine eyes upon such and one, and bringest me into judgment with thee? Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one." Exactly. And that could, pretty much refer to Esau, like that part, who could bring a clean thing out of an unclean. Once the Most High declared, like let's say and even it could tie in with 2/3 too, because let's say you can't make 2/3 become the 1/3. You can't make Esau be saved. You can't make Esau become righteous. he's just gonna be like, it's the moral of the story. The Most High set up the plot of the story from the beginning of time, and he already written out in scriptures, and now it's for us to break it down and for us to see the prophecies fulfill and take place. That's pretty much what it is. And it says right here, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Yeah, a lot of brothers like to use that scripture for Esau, but it also refers to, anyone in general. Well, mainly the wicked of our people too. It could be because it's like you seen these wicked niggas. First of all, scriptures tell you in 10 commandments, honor thy mother and father, for the days may live long upon the land. Exactly. And these niggas, they pretty much disrespect their mothers and fathers and shit like that. They sometimes, because even if they have a father in their house, sometimes the father may be a simp. The father may not have like any parenting skills, because obviously who's gonna know the knowledge of the scriptures? He's not gonna really know like that. A lot of men are not gonna really know this knowledge of this Bible. Even some Christians, to a certain extent, they may know how to raise their kids right in a way, but some of them don't. So yeah, and it tells you a lot of parenting skills. You can even look it up in a Google on how to train your kids through the scriptures, and it tells you straight up that you should hit your children with the rod, and you can't provoke them. You got to raise them up to the admonition of the Lord, it says, and you got to raise a child in a way that he can't depart from. So yeah, this scripture could be like pretty much, since they don't honor their parents, they get put to death. Their life is expectancy is short. Some kids don't even pass the age of 18 or 21. And one time I told my teacher that I became 18, in high school or whatever. He was like, "You're 18? Congratulations, my young man. You're 18. You know how many people I didn't see to live to 18? A lot." Because since I was a year left back, I kind of felt like a little bad or whatever, But he said, "You should be happy. You're 18, because he was telling me that he was like a teacher, but he worked his way from being a hall monitor to a global history teacher. Like, he worked his way up there, honestly. So yeah, he was pretty cool. There were sometimes he had his little moments where, because I guess we go through shit in life. He had his little moments, but eventually he was cool overall. Yeah. And this is 2 Ezra 5 and 8. It says, "Menstruous women shall bring forth monsters." So it says crime rates will usually go up, and that's what you see with these little niggas, man. I've seen videos where these little niggas will probably will try to beat up a homeless man, and they jumped the homeless man. And there was even one time there was these group of kids that jumped that little girl. I think it was in Flatbush, around somewhere in Brooklyn. They jumped. It was a whole bunch of them jumped this little girl, stole her Air Jordans, and bro, she's a high school girl. I think 14. She was mad small too. Bro, she could be mistaken for a middle school kid. She, how small she was, and then they all over here jumping on her. And one of the boys was seen running and kicking her in the head on some type of Karate Kid shit. And I'm like, bro, are y'all dead ass? She's on the floor blocking. She was it's kind of semi unconscious, they said, and pretty much they had pictures of their faces outside. And that's the thing about these niggas, they're so grimy, and it tells you they are menstruous. They are monsters. And it's funny that it says menstruous, because these women, they act like fucking men, so, and they're monstrous at the same time, because they act like, that's why we have the term nigger woman. But it tells you in Isaiah chapter 51. Right there, Spirit clicked on it, everything. Thy sons have fainted, they lie at the head of all the streets as a wild bull in a net. And that's Isaiah 51 verse 20. They are full of the fury of the Lord, the rebuke of thy God. Exactly. So yeah, and these niggas, that's how they act. I mean, at one point I used to kind of get down to like that. I used to have friends, there were times I was in the street, doing some shit yeah, because it's I didn't really have the knowledge and stuff. So, but there was a certain things that I wouldn't really do that was petty, and there's certain things that that was pretty much what you call it, I thought it was cool, but it was still going off, even if you're not really hurting nobody, because you're destroying your own spirit doing these things and staying around people that's wicked. Yeah, and up to no good. Yeah, so, and a few more scriptures I would like to pretty much bring out. Tells you Isaiah chapter 3 verse 12. As for my people, judge under their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Who's leading this country, and who's leading, like, who's pretty much like the top one ruler out of all the heathen nations on this side is Esau, you know? And then he will set up people in our nation of our people, like celebrities, to basically lead the destruction of our people, to push forth the wicked agendas. And these elites, they fund the destruction of our people. Basically, Women's Lib was funded by the Rockefellers. Tells you in the Aaron Russo conversation that he had with Alex Jones. They had a conversation about the Rockefellers, how he met up with Nicholas Rockefeller. Nicholas Rockefeller was like, guess who funded Women's Lib? And then we, the Rockefellers, we funded it. You know why Women's Lib was funded? And then he said, oh, I thought it's just for women to work, women to, do this and that. He said, no, you're an idiot. Women's Lib was funded because, one, we needed to tax the whole population, because half the population is getting taxed. So now the whole population is getting taxed. And these stupid ass bitches acting like, oh, they making all this money. First of all, if you're a fucking Israelite, first of all, the money is fucking fiat currency, dickwads. And second of all, that money is printed of a so-called white person. Honestly, you have the presidents, all the Edomites. You don't have none of your own people that's in your dollar bill. So shut the fuck up. You have all faces of Edomites. Yeah, and the money is not backed up by nothing valuable but fucking piece of paper to wipe your fucking ass. And yeah, and they he also said, like, Nicholas Rockefeller also told Aaron Russo that when Aaron Russo was pretty much talking about it to Alex Jones, he said another reason was that they funded Women's Lib to pretty much increase, like, illegitimacy rates, to pretty much, like, the main second reason was that they wanted to have women and the father and the mother working to basically keep the children in school, to keep the children, like, accepting the educational system as their family, so their parents won't have that much time to homeschool their kids. So it is to stop homeschooling, because honestly, when you homeschool kids, that makes kids smarter than most kids, because it shows you that a lot of geniuses are actually homeschooled. A lot of the geniuses, the famous geniuses too, famous people were homeschooled. Some of them, and a lot of them were smarter than students when they got into college. But now, when you're in the educational system in school now, you gotta be going through a whole bunch of oppression, going through bullshit, dealing with niggas, and especially in our people, like, especially if you're in the public school system that's for the majority. If you're in the ones that's, like, accepted by good grades, by good performance in sports, you get the best lunch, you get the best, or if it's a private school, you gotta pay for it, you get the best lunch, the best, whatever. Yeah. So that's pretty much how it is. Every organization that's out there that claims that they helping our people is on it, like, especially Black Lives Matter, is honestly destroying our people. It's not helping us people. And Esau paints that image like he wants to help us. Nah, he's trying to destroy us every way possible. This is about Esau. It says, and they covet fields and take them away by violence, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Exactly. Oppressing our men, trying to make our men not know who they are, calling them the labels, bywords. And honestly, when it's coming to those single parent homes, Esau, he pops our woman, and sometimes, he don't raise those children that he popped. There'll be Edomites that, like, it shows you that JFK, no, not JFK, Bill Clinton, Slovakia, had a kid for this for some black woman or whatever, and the kid looked just like him too, and that's a tear. Honestly, that's a tear. You know, and that's Bill Clinton's. That's their problem pretty much. Like, and Bill Clinton he rejected that kid. So, and it shows you right there that that's how Esau is. He will pop, he will pop our woman, so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, and then he will pretty much leave them, to basically to fend for themselves, and that's his own seed that he left back with that woman. That's a tear, because you come back to your third, fourth generation, so you basically, let's say you put your own grandfather or great grandfather in oppression, that died. You put him in oppression, and he comes from your seed line, and you're stupid to do that. Because now let's say he has a kid and you die, you could either come back as his kid or his kid's kid, and what, you'd be considered as a so-called black person or whatever, a Spanish or Native American, whatever his mother was. You get some of that genetics, but you're still an Edomite because you coming from that seed line of the Esau. So yeah. And it says right here in Ephesians 5th chapter, verse 23, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Hamashiach is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Exactly. And 1 Corinthians 11 chapter, verse 3 says, but I will have you know that the head of every woman, head of every man is Hamashiach, or Yahushai, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh. Exactly. So that's showing you the order. Without Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, what's the purpose of Yahushai? And without the purpose of Yahushai, what's the purpose of a man? And without the purpose of a man, what's the purpose of a woman? Exactly. It's like you walking like a chicken with no head, like a headless chicken, It's like you're crazy, So yeah, and hope I made the lesson edifying. To give all glory, praises, honor to Adonai, Yahweh, Bashem, Shamlak, Yahweh, Bashem, Kakadash, honor to apostles and elders, green millstone, peace, citation, hope for that, Yahweh, Bashem, Shah, Shalak, Riyam, Adawami, Abba, Shalom.